Hall of Human Origins. In this exhibit, they acknowledge the fact that humanity only began in Africa, and that human beings, Homo sapiens sapiens, are 200,000 years old. But another important aspect in this exhibit is that they state a historical truth that these Africans began migrating out of Africa into Asia around 60,000 years ago. And it was only about 40,000 years ago that groups of these same Africans began migrating to Western Asia, to the continent that we now call Europe. So in that regard, we can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that the first Europeans were African.
So the most racist redneck in North Carolina today,
or Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. It follows that the original man was a black man.
Right. The original man was African specifically, because we know that based on the archaeological evidence, but we also know that fact based on the mitochondrial DNA. Back in 1987, a group of geneticists studied the oldest mitochondrial DNA. Mitochondrial DNA is that part of your cell structure that is passed on to you by your mother. So we all are familiar with the statement, mama's baby, daddy's maybe. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows who the mama is. Sure. There may be a question mark, but everyone knows who the mama is. Mm-hmm. And so by studying the mitochondrial DNA of a cross-section of so-called races and nationalities all around the world, these geneticists concluded that every person on this planet carries a mitochondrial DNA that has been traced to a group of women who are still living in Africa. Thus, there's no such thing as race. Race was a false construct created by racists in order to divide people based on color. So there's only one race, the human race, which had its origins in Africa. Thus, by extension, every person on this planet is of African ancestry.
Where was Jesus born?
That's a good question. Where was Jesus born and when was Jesus born is another question. If we accept the basic story, he was born in what was Northeast Africa before the Suez Canal was built. So he would have been a person of color, not the blonde-haired, blue-eyed individual that we see in many churches. His story is a story of the struggle of people of color against oppressive invaders. It's a story that resonates with most.
Good day, family.
Most people of African ancestry, African Americans in this country, by and large, are known to be the most religious people in the country,
probably in the world.
African Americans, yeah, man. Sunday is a very, very big day where the overwhelming majority of African Americans worship in houses of Christian belief.
Right. So if we remember what Dr. King said, 11 o'clock on Sunday is the most segregated hour in America.
Yes.
Black folk go to a black church and worship a white Jesus. White folk go to a white church and worship a white Jesus. But the issue is, if we understand the geographical reality of the place where Jesus was born, there were no white people there at the time. That's another issue.
I don't want to be at all trite with religion.
Sure.
I don't play with people's religion.
Mm-hmm.
But Scripture talks about Jesus being an individual who had hands and feet the color of not just brass, but burned brass.
Right.
That's dark. And hair like lamb's wool. That's not blonde and blue-eyed. When did Jesus and how did Jesus as a symbol become blonde and blue-eyed?
Well, most people that I know who are Christians and lovers of the Bible, lovers of Jesus, know nothing about a man by the name of Eusebius. Eusebius was the man who in 325 was Constantine's Karl Rove. He organized the Nicene Council and literally determined what books were going to go into the Bible.
Let me just say something for a viewer who might not have heard or understood what you just said. Yes. That it was Constantine's Karl Rove.
Yes, indeed.
Karl Rove is the quintessential dirty tricks guy.
Yes, indeed.
For the Bush administration and the sort of a hard-wing conservative Republicans.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what we understand very clearly is that every people have a right to interpret their relationship to the Creator as seen through their own cultural lens. But what Constantine did was to use this newly created religion, Christianity, as a means to not only control people physically, but also to control their minds. And it was Eusebius who called together, I believe, 88 bishops who met in Nicaea in Turkey, and they literally determined the shape and tenor of the Bible. So this book was constructed by a group of men for political and social reasons, and it was around that time, around 25 years later, that they actually determined when Jesus was born. Now, this is important because prior to 340 AD, no one knew when Jesus was born.
So let me challenge you.
Yes, sir.
As those out there might want to do. The Bible is the inerrant, infallible word of God, and how dare you challenge that?
Well, I only talk about what I know. And I know that the Bible was a book that is comprised of 66 different chapters that were written by 66 different men over a period of 2,000 years.
Okay. All right. That right there is our brother Anthony Browder. And you know, I listens to him. But yeah. Wow, that is deep. I'll finish it later. It's like 56, almost an hour long. And I had really just put it on and stuff. You know, when I wasn't even sure I was gonna get on and read, but we trying to finish this book. Yeah, that's the you know the priority to finish the book. But yeah, honey, that is our brother, and we know Anthony Browder is the first African American, and he's from West Side Chicago. Yeah, he's a fully. He fully funds and participates in the archaeological excavations, finding the tombstones. Oh, good day, family. If they would have, let me tell the tale. Good day. It's so good to see everyone. Oh, I guess I don't know. What you talking about? Me? They censored me again? Again? I don't know. Oh, yeah. I don't know what that's about, Hank. What happened? I don't know. I just wanted to come on, y'all, and you know, I'm gonna try not to keep us all night again. But you know, I'm trying to find out what's wrong with my people. Every time I come on, that's my main reason for being here. You know, to heal my people. And I hope that's why you here. To heal my people. If you're here for somebody else, then you need to be over there with their people. Because that's not what I'm doing here. Now, I'm going to pause this for later. And we're going to get started. We're going to finish our book. Because I'm going to get back to what I was doing myself. And we don't have much. We just got that little bit right there. And we only going to read a chapter tonight. I don't think it's a very long chapter. Maybe like 10 pages, you know. But I thank y'all for y'all presence. Oh, and then look, we'll be on part 4. Then we will be on part 4 of this book. Ooh, this has been really challenging. And y'all done hung in there. Y'all done hung in there with me through Red Summer, racial violence in Kentucky, 1865 to 1940. All these years, you know, I had no idea what all my people done been through. I didn't know. I did not know. I wouldn't have just kept my mouth shut. I wouldn't have just, let us be. Not without saying something. Somebody got to say something to us. Got to try to make some sense of this. I do. I can't, live my next 40 years without saying something to my people. And I hope, that's why y'all here. Yeah. Maritime powers without a European base. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know nothing about no maritime powers. I sure don't. I don't know nothing about all that stuff right there. All I know is this is spiritual. I got my ancestors with me. We need to depend on us. These people, I don't know nothing about no maritime. I didn't even know about all of these arrows, these projects and operations, these experiments. I mean, how did our critical minds let it get this far on my people? You know, and then someone like myself find out and it's like, oh shit, we in between a rock and a hard place. And now stainless steel, titanium. You know, because we finna be surrounded by robots and stuff. Yeah. I don't know nothing about all that other stuff. I know we better call on our ancestors. We better call on our ancestors because we finna get the brunt of everything that's been happening. Yeah, we already know. Don't nobody live forever. You know, we better get right with our ancestors, get right with our people, our family. Somebody, prosperity. Somebody is going to survive this, and we need to make sure it's us. We need to make sure our people survive this. You know, I mean, yeah, we can't depend on nobody else. How we going to depend on somebody else for something? That's over with. That is over with. Whether it's a tsunami or a tornado, I don't know. What heart gonna come up with? Well, you know when the people push the button for heart. I have no idea. But I know we better be covered on all fronts. So that whoever is here at the end of all of this can have a way. Yeah, you know, my people. I failed. Y'all failed. Everybody failed us. The system failed us. You know, at least for this last chance, we better call on us. We better call on our ancestors. That faith that you got, black people, all that hope you've been holding in your whole life, waiting on Jesus, you better call on a dog now. You better put that faith and call on your highest power outside of this circle. Because, yeah, we in some mud now. We literally in the mud now, in concrete. What they call it, quicksand. That's what I see. That's what I see. You know, everybody done just sit there and let us be led into this motherfucking pit again. Kind of like the Devil's Punch Bowl. And then we learned today about the salad of America. What was it? Where the titanium plant done motherfucking blew up. Lithium all done spread it 50 to 100 miles. Lithium. The chemical lithium. You know, it's just so fucked up. And what get to me and stuff, because, I'm trying to straighten up my diet and stuff, not eat so much meat. Notice what I'm eating and stuff, It's hard, but I'm doing it. So I've been focusing on vegetables a lot and stuff. But 70% of our vegetables come from that area. 70% of our vegetables. So what? I guess now I'm going to have to start asking folks, are you getting your vegetables from California? Where this come from? Let me see that code on that box. Scan that. I don't know. We really in a tight place right now. We got to be even more selective about where we getting our seeds from. That's the best way for me to go because I'm so late and behind. Even in my inside garden, I'm just going to have to order up a whole bunch of seeds. Find the right place, lead form of 73, possibly, and just order me a whole bunch of seeds and just take one day, set the camera up outside, I guess, and just go ahead and do all my pots and bring them on in the house, set them somewhere in the sun. Yeah, move some stuff around and set it up high and just let it start because things just going too fast. I've been too slow. I waited too late to realize what was happening to my own people. And I feel like, I'm late. I feel like, people like me are late, because we don't have the educational freedom that y'all got. We don't have the financial freedom that y'all got and stuff. We got everything late. Where I'm from and stuff, we got our music like 6 to 9 months after y'all got it. Yeah, y'all was like on the remix. And we were just now getting the music and stuff. Same thing with everything. With clothes, education, survival skills. You know how we pass on knowledge and stuff. We got everything too late. So now I feel like, yeah, we late. Yeah, we very late, you know, but we got to at least try to catch up. I do got some ideas for me, and I hope y'all can use them too, but we got to break this mindset because it's going to happen. We not here. This is another awakening. This is another awakening. And I didn't even know about the first awakening. So, yeah, it's going to be, you know, a whole bunch of losses and stuff. Everybody finna get some of this oppression because didn't nobody stand up for Black people during this and this. It's quite simple what's going on. Now the cosmos is in it. It's spiritual now. I mean, the people that be have overstepped the boundaries. You know, it's cosmic energy. We don't just say karma gonna get your ass. You better watch out for karma. We know that is real. Everything you put out there. And it's so much been put out against the cosmos manifested us. We like the manifestation of the cosmos. And it's so much that's been put out up there, so much trauma that's been done to us. And now that, you know, it's out of our hands what's going to happen, you know. And then right here on earth, when we could have physically, mentally, intellectually, I don't know, y'all the one with the brains. Y'all the ones that graduated, got your degrees and your certificates. You know, you got your degrees, your certificates, your diplomas, all that good stuff. So somebody along the way should at least been able to say, no, you know, we got to let the people know about HB 40, you know. But y'all just let everything just slip through. How many knew that our politicians wasn't shit? And I ain't saying nothing. You know, I feel betrayed by a whole lot of folks, but I know we traumatized. I know we've been scared to say anything. Ooh, we won't even let nobody else say nothing about white folks. That's how traumatized we are. But at some point, you know, we got to hold ourselves accountable too. Because I was blind for like 43 years. I ain't seen nothing, honey. I thought Black folk was all right. I thought we was all right. I thought it was okay. You know, slavery happened. I forgave slavery. I did. I forgave Emmett Till. What little bit I may have known about Tulsa, I really learned about Tulsa when Trayvon Martin was killed, murdered by George Zimmerman. He was assassinated by George Zimmerman. And that's when I really learned about Tulsa. But I guess somewhere along the way, for them few years, I guess I forgave that too. But after this, I'm reading what Tulsa really was. See, 10,000 of our people fled from Tulsa in shock, traumatized, stumbling, couldn't see because they were crying, they were hyperventilating. Can you even imagine? I can't even imagine sometimes. But I had forgave what I thought I knew. But once I learned what Tulsa was really like in Kentucky, the state of Kentucky, that book was talking about the whole state. It wasn't talking about a little city. It said, you know, 1865 to 1940. Racial violence in Kentucky. So once I started learning about that, I don't got no more forgiveness. I take my forgiveness back. And I give it all to my ancestors. I give it to my ancestors for still trusting and believing that, yeah, maybe white folks done changed now. Maybe we done sacrificed enough. Maybe we done gave enough to white folks. Now, I forgive them for thinking like that. Because I don't think like that. And I probably never will. Because they don't deserve it. What have white folks shown us? My people. What have they done for you? What have they shown you? Have they given you anything? Have anybody sincerely even repented for this? You know, I don't see it. Not for my people. And I wish, you know, I know things finna hit the fan. Shit finna hit the fan. But see, we got resilience in us. So, you know, keep your faith in your people. You know, get yourself out of this circle. Get yourself right. You've been saying it your whole life. You better get yourself right with Jesus. Yeah, you better get yourself right out of that circle. Yeah. I know that's what we said, get yourself right with Jesus, but at this point right here, I got to tell y'all, you don't want to go to heaven. Nope. No, the way things are right now and the way things being exposed, black people, you don't want to go to heaven. You want to go past heaven. See, that's the difference between me and you. I'm totally spiritual. I'm not even religious. I'm not even living inside of there. I ain't even got no religion, no denomination. No, I'm part of the cosmos. Yeah, before there was even sound or syllable, I was in the cosmos. We all was. The cosmos manifested that black woman who is me. I am she. I'm a black woman. You a black woman. The black man. Yeah, the black man. The cosmos manifested us as the first people on this planet. The parent of all people. So see, we are the supreme ones. Anthony Browder, our brother right here, said that scientists discovered and admitted, they already knew it. Shit, they already know we timeless. We ain't even got no birthday. I only been here 52 years, and I'm sick of white folks. When I leave here, I'm going to the 12th of never. But anyway, white folks done discovered, them scientists, that we were like 290 years before white folks was even created. Or I don't know, grafted, what, because it's a lot, about that and stuff. But I don't know if the big head scientist, Yakub, did it. I don't know. But I know that the cosmos manifested us. I know woman didn't come from no man's rib. If that was the case, why stop with one? Why did it stop with one? And why would the cosmos do the man first when the cosmos is giving birth? It's up there birthing storms and stars and rainbows and planets. It's alive. And that's the black woman's womb. Triply black. Blackly black, black, black. If we can believe all that bullshit that religion done taught us, then yeah, we can believe. Maybe you got to hear it from a white man. I don't know. Maybe somebody will tell you the truth about how it came to be. They already done said and done proved and done acknowledged that black people were the first people on this planet. We know that. Just stop believing that, it was Adam and then Eve was created from Adam. Stop all that bullshit. Just go ahead and let yourself even think about it. That the cosmos just manifested you, black man. The cosmos just manifested me, a black woman. The scientists, it's a new science called epigenetics. My book in on here. Epigenetics, y'all. And it's about the body's memory. Our body got a memory. How about these folks done said that our bodies have enough memory in us from 30,000 years ago. But see, I think we got enough memory in our bodies from farther than that. But 30 years, we can work with that. They said that our DNA, it's got enough memory for the past 30 years, 30,000 years, y'all. So white folks ain't been here but 8,000 years. We got a 290,000 year start on white folks. White folks ain't been here but 8,000 years. Tony Browder said it. It's in my notes. Don't make me take off my glasses and read, because I will. Matter of fact, geneticists know this. Africans been on this planet 300,000 years alone. Well, 290,000 years. Geneticists learned the African genes that mutated. They lost their melanin. They became white or Caucasian. And those genes are just 7,000 to 8,000 years old, y'all. We got a 290,000 year head start on the people who have flipped the script on us and made us think we were slaves. Those are his words. Yeah, those was his words right there. And then he said also a new body of science called epigenetics, the body's memory. We carry DNA from every ancestor we have from 30,000 years ago, y'all. So why is y'all keeping y'allself in this circle talking about what that man done said? At least call him Horus. See, because Horus was the first virgin born Christ-like deity. think I said it right. Why don't you just call him Horace? At least then you'll be able to put a correct, a correct meaning to him. I mean, you got to call on a dog, Black America. You've been calling on a cat, and it's been misleading. It's all of it. All of it been misleading. You're so blind, we can't even think outside the box. You got to think outside the box. This religion stuff right here, you think outside the box. You come from all of that out there. All the multiverse. It ain't even just one universe. I thought it was just one universe. I'm like, oh, my ancestors. These people done lied to me. They done manipulated me. And then I think about it, they done did this to my mama, my grandmama, my great-grandmama. Done told us all these lies and stuff. And ain't nobody even question them, because we don't question white folks. But I am. Starting today, I'm questioning everything they done taught me. And I'm telling my people, we finna learn the truth. Yeah, let's get this fundamental stuff out the way. Good day. Good day, I know, right? Yeah. Yeah, Black America got to speak up. I know it's a little, it shake you up a little bit, because we ain't used to it. We not used to it, but that's all right, because we are in extreme times. We're in extreme measures. I didn't even know. I was just going on with my life. I was like, okay, I can deal with it. I done fucked up my life, and making my amends to my family. But with all of this right here, then I got to make more amends than that. Making our amends to our family, that ain't enough. We got to make our amends to our people. I do. I don't know about y'all. I do. I see a world where my kids, my grandbabies, and your grandbabies, they get along just fine. They loving on each other. They loving on each other. They not going through that, why you looking at me? Why you staring at me? They not going to go through that. That's what I see. So yeah, I don't have a problem talking and telling my people what I'm learning. That's different, because everything has been a lie, and everything been exposed to us. It just matter if we got the heart. Malcolm said we scared to bleed. Y'all scared to lose y'all friends and y'all jobs and stuff. You scared to confront your spouse. Just let them listen to Dick Gregory. You ain't even got to say nothing. Just put Dick Gregory on. Yeah, put on anybody. Put on Dr. Francis Chris Wilson, Dr. Joy DeGraw. Just put it on. You ain't got to say nothing, because they're going to let you know if it resonate or if it irritate. And from there, that'll make it easy for you to decide whose side you on and what you need to do. I mean, because, this is just it. But let's get this out the way. Good day. I'm Face the Nation. We are on Bolden Unchained. And we're here to assist Black America and Black media with the uncovering of the many agendas, events, projects, operations, laws, bills, codes, acts, memorandums, studies, courses. I'm finna cover up that paper right there. As long as we got one person in here, that's enough. My ancestor said I ain't got to go through all that. As long as this one person in here, hey, we can do this. And so I thank you for being here, though. I really do. And we're here to uncover all of that. And we're going to condemn it. Yep, we're going to uncover it and we're going to condemn it. We need to find out what's wrong with Black America. The world is on fire. The world always on fire. Always on fire. Somebody always needs something. But now we can't focus on nobody else. We just going to have to give us all of our attention, all of our focus. That's why I'm here. That's why we here. If that ain't why you're here, you got to go. You need to, because this going to irritate you. And I really don't want to do that. I just want us to know where we're supposed to be at and be in your place. That's it, and that's all. Everybody got somewhere to be. We ain't got no time to waste. So we're going to be looking through a spiritual lens, because by now you already know I'm not religious. I ain't forgiving nothing. I ain't forgiving nobody. If I forgive anybody, it's going to be my ancestors. It's going to be my ancestors for even trusting and having faith and hope that these people were going to ever change. I forgive us for, even bringing Becky and Ken and all their asses home and caring, you know, and having our little babies and stuff. Yeah, I blame our ass for that. You know, it didn't really do us no good. The suffering we put them through, they lived the last parts of their life remembering what happened to, you know, like they great-great-grandson. Can you imagine John Hartfield's family when they ran and had to leave him? You know, hanging and stuff, beating. And then, you know, like 15 years later, 10 years later, the family done forgot about John and done actually started dating and marrying the same people that we done ran from, that our family just been traumatized from. You know, it's too much for me and stuff, you know, but I'm going to finish this because I'm going to let us know. And right now it look like white America is the sole reason for our very disconnect with each other. We can't even think about building nothing with each other because we know white America ain't gonna like it. That's what's gonna enrage white America to just snap again. They ain't never had no healing. We ain't never had no healing, no therapy, no nothing. Yeah, we a miracle, if you ask me. So yeah, we look at through a spiritual lens of loyalty, resilience, and education. I just want us to know whose side we on. Yeah, I just want us to learn what really happened. What really happened to Black America? And, you know, decide whose side we on. Yeah, that's it and that's all. We just need to know where does our loyalty lie. You know, and I just want to give us the truth about it. I'm learning that. I didn't know it was going to be this. I did not know it was finna be some racial violence like this. Why y'all not teaching this? Why y'all not teaching this to us and stuff? I mean, you know how to do everything. You there. You got everything you need. I mean, it took me this long, and I went the long way around just to get right here and say something to my people. And this is what it is, racial violence. So, yeah, that's what we're learning about. So we can heal us. We can fix us. George Fraser said everybody got to fix themselves. Asians got to fix Asians. White people got to fix white people. Black people got to fix Black people. Spanish people got to fix Spanish people. Everybody got to work on them and everybody else but us because we afraid to. We scared. We know once we get together and start building up and stuff, white America gonna go off on us. We already know. We sure do. I don't know. Is that why y'all just started marrying them and getting your businesses and shit with them like they wasn't gonna change and show their true colors to us? That's good. You know, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out myself. I'm just trying to figure it out myself because really, y'all, this is the end of it. You know, I'm over half 100. Yeah, I'm timeless, but I've been here, you know, 50-some years, 52 years now. Ain't no need us being worried about what somebody think and what somebody gonna say because, yeah, y'all bringing it up again. You damn right we bringing it up again. And we're going to keep bringing it up. Because somebody needs to recognize and understand that Black folks are too traumatized to stay in this bullshit monopoly, this matrix. We too traumatized. We can't deal with white folks no more. All we want is to be left alone so we can build and save us. Y'all know we got a new world order coming up. Everybody know. What is it going to take? We're going to be surrounded by robots? Motherfuckers talking about, get her, I can open the door. You really think she finna open the door and her ass use her wrist to open the door with the little chip in her hand right there. That's what we going to right now. And I don't know. I think I did say it at least once or twice that we got to start focusing on the new things that they doing. We always going to be fighting the old fights because they ain't going nowhere. But see, white supremacy, it keep adding. Neely Fuller said that it's a 24-hour system, y'all. It covers everything. Every aspect of our life is covered by white supremacy. It's run, controlled by white supremacy. And we act like it's not, but it is. So yeah, you know, we were supposed to see this coming. You know, people didn't want to talk about this. People don't want to talk about it. The 5G towers. Everybody know what the fuck them damn things are. Well, no, we don't. Well, we know it's not normal. We know them 5G towers are not normal. That should have been enough right there. You know, it's just like, but everybody don't care. Long as everybody feel like, oh, long as Black America can handle it. Long as Black America can handle whatever happened, we'll be all right. That's how folks feel. That's how America feels. For all that we done suffered and been through, don't nobody even have no consideration that we ain't had no healing. We can't get together. They look at us and be like, dang, y'all gonna stay like this. But they won't say it to us. Won't nobody tell us, y'all need to get away from white folks. Won't nobody even tell us. We won't even tell us. See, Neely Fuller said white supremacy covers everything. Every aspect of life. The only thing we can hope to do is to get up off our fucking knees praying and start building up something. Even if it's inside your little 1-bedroom apartment. You know, go ahead, throw away all that bullshit and get you a little inside garden. Get you your greenery. I don't care. Go back to eating stir fries and salads. Because we won't have the luxury of going out to the stores no more. We see everything is being closed off. Everything is being stripped away and reneged. That's because shit, everybody, I believe here, did a motherfucker put a time limit on slavery? I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I don't know who woke me up, but somebody said, get your ass up. You've been asleep too long. And we all have. I want you to know right now, everybody finna be mad at your ass when you start teaching and talking and telling your people what we need to know. What's happening, what's going on. I know everybody got marriages, everybody got babies. We got businesses and stuff. I mean, we was like that with white folks. And you know we was. We were so sincere when we integrated. Not once did we think white America was playing us for a fool. Even though Martin told us, Malcolm told us, everybody told us. Maya told us, you know, Fannie Lou Hamer told us, everybody told us. But now we just still think that, oh, it's all right with me. They treat me okay. And we always thought Dr. John Henry Clark told us, we always thought they was our friend. And they were doing us good. And, you know, it's okay if we struggling and they struggling too. But just because some of them is struggling, don't mean them as a collective are struggling. Them few that we think struggling, hell, all they got to do is go on with them. Go on inside with them. But what we got? Nothing. We ain't got nothing. You know, and it's just like, you know, we can't be a fool and a dummy. We can't be. If this is going to be the end right here, like some Terminator shit for real, I mean the Jetsons for real, then shit, hell, let's just get our own shit. Let's just get our own, you know. Somebody asked for the money. I don't know, y'all the ones up there. Y'all the ones got the degrees and the diplomas and certificates, and you got the intelligence to get up in there and be like, yeah, I know how you can do this. And, you know, they going to a one world currency anyway, where it's going to be a cashless society. I'm just saying, you know, go on and tell them, hey, don't burn no more money. Don't shred no more money. Give all that money to, you know, a black somebody to distribute and stuff. So start distributing it. Maybe Farrakhan, Dr. Claude Anderson. I don't know, Dr. Boyce Watkins. I don't know. You the ones supposed to know. Y'all the ones, see. Y'all the ones that went to the educational, you got the educational pinnacle. You reached, yeah, that's a new word, right? You reached that educational freedom, that mark. So y'all figure it out and put a stop to this so we can at least have something. You see the way the Amish been sustaining themselves this whole time, and they all right. That's how we gonna be with the new world. That's how we gonna be. Keep y'all shit over there. We don't want just one state. We're gonna need like maybe 4 or 5 states. I don't know. I'm just saying, you know, for Black America. We're going to have to find something. Now, we in extreme times and stuff. I didn't know. Like I said, I thought y'all was keeping an eye on what's going on. I was like, shit, yeah, I told you what I did. I dropped out in 11th grade. So, yeah, I didn't know nothing about none of this. I really feel betrayed. Let's get the copyright out the way because we still have to do this because I don't want to get banned or blocked because I didn't read this right here. Now, ain't that some shit? But, yeah, let's do it. Copyright disclaimer under 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair uses are used permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. So we can read this. Yep, we can read this. And I'm going to do it. Yep, every time. Because I want to be reading to us. I don't care. I read to us. I probably shouldn't have tonight because my throat is a little more scratchy. But, I do like room temperature beverages. And I ain't got no more tea bags. Or I'll be drinking me some tea water. But, yeah, we at least going to try to read this small chapter right here. And we're going to get done with this. I'm pretty sure it's white folks that's done traumatized us like this. Where the healing going to begin? It's going to have to be in the middle of all this madness. How we going to find our healing? I mean, how we going to get it together so that it sinks for all of us? Well, we got to grow first, but we'll do it. The ancestors said, just do it. Just read and do it, and they'll make it happen. But yeah, we reading racial violence, y'all, in the United States. I don't know why this book wasn't last. I mean, because this right here is the culmination of all the other states. And then I'm thinking, is the ancestors intending on me to read racial violence in every state? Can you imagine? For real. So yeah, I didn't start back with in slavery. Because like I said, I'm the last one here as far as I'm concerned. Now we finna reach those of my ilk. We ain't got that we didn't get to that educational pinnacle. We didn't get to that financial freedom, that a lot of us reached and stuff. Yeah, we just didn't make it there. So yeah, I'm pretty much the last of the last. And so yeah, we didn't start back in slavery. Some of them may. I couldn't. Because I go the long way around. It's taking me a long time just to get through this. Because I thought, it might be speed reading, but you can't even speed read this. I can't. We'll probably end up reading this book again once there's enough of us here and everybody can just read a chapter. But anyway, we are from race riot to sit-in, 1919 and the 1960s. Black America is in another awakening. We are in another awakening. This was our first awakening. Red Summer, the summer of 1919, and the awakening of Black America. Now we're in another awakening. All right, let's read. 1919, an examination of the 5 major responses to the 1919 riots shows that several of them see changes in the behavior of the police as a way of preventing future riots. Looked at in terms of their views on the role of the police, the 5 responses cluster into 3 different positions. The first of these looked toward increasing the power of the police so that they could smash opposition to the established order, whether expressed in violent riots or disorderly protests. The second looked toward making the police more neutral as between the parties in conflict, more single-mindedly committed to preventing or punishing violence by whomever used, and more prepared to accept as legitimate any attempts by weaker parties to disturb the established order by means other than violence. I know, right? Let's read that again, because, whoa. Yeah, it's deep. The second looked toward making the police more neutral as between the parties in conflict, more single-mindedly committed to preventing or punishing violence by whomever used, and more prepared to accept as legitimate any attempts by weaker parties to disturb the established order by means other than violence. The third approach tended to ignore the police and to concentrate instead on changes in the values and beliefs of American society. Ooh. Well, them are the three positions right there. And the one that I've seen so far was 3, where they tended to ignore the police and let them do whatever. Or it could be 1, where they also increased the police power. Because, you know, in Kentucky, they were saying that the police came with all of their ammunition. They gave the police everything. The military, they gave the military everything. Like they were going to go and put out the riot. But they came with all their ammunition and gave some of it to the white mob. You know. So I guess it could be 1 or 3. But it's 3 ways this could go. Let's read. The first view, favoring a more powerful police, was held both by those who demanded a return to racial hierarchy in American life and those who demanded the reestablishment of law and order. In the first case, hierarchists deplored what they called the mildness that police in many cities had shown toward Negro riders, and also demanded tough federal police action against the radicalism and the Bolshevism they thought had helped incite the Negro mobs. See how Allen D. Grimshaw ended up saying the Negro mobs, because I know after this certain point, instead of us being viewed and talked about in a like the victims that we were, all of a sudden he just started saying the counter riders were the white folks and the riders were the black folks. So me and him, we already off to a bad start. Me and this man right here. But he got other books that we will be reading, because that's why we got to tell our own stories. Yeah, I'm only too okay with reading for us. And y'all start writing. Y'all write the books, I'll read them. Yep. Among those who wanted a return to law and order without specifying what sort of established order they had in mind, the idea seems to have been not suppression of Negroes by superior police power, but suppression of anyone, white or black, who disturbed the political system. The law and order school seemed to hope that whenever racial conflict became disorderly or violent, government would make authoritative decisions, settling the conflicts, and then enforce these decisions with a heavy hand. Despite the difference between the two groups over the kind of order to be enforced, both were prepared to enforce order with overwhelming power. The approach that looked toward a neutral police force oriented to the prevention of violence without the suppression of conflict was exemplified by the campaign for a federal law against lynching, and by the logic of the Supreme Court in the Arkansas cases. In both these instances, the argument was that the federal government could and should insist that no local mob or police force use violence on behalf of one of the parties to racial conflict. In both cases, specifically in the Arkansas cases, by clear intent in the anti-lynching campaign, this approach would have extended federal protection to such activities as the creation of Negro pressure groups and unions, no matter how disorderly and outrageous such activities were considered in a particular locality. But this approach would not have meant federal enforcement of a new established order of racial equality. In short, these proposals look toward the creation of a neutral police oriented solely to the prevention of violence, not toward the increase of police power to the point where it could smash all disturbances of the established order. The third approach to the role of the police, which tended to focus away from them and toward changing basic values in the community, was taken by those who wanted to move toward racial equality and those who supported a policy of accommodation. Unlike supporters of racial hierarchy, supporters of racial equity equality did not urge the use of a powerful police force to establish and uphold their favorite version of order and to suppress their opponents. Although at first glance, it may seem surprising that between believers in racial hierarchy and believers in racial equality, there is so little symmetry, SYMMETRY, so little symmetry on the question of a proper role for the police. The asymmetry, ASSYMMETRY, the asymmetry seems less surprising if the facts of relative power in 1919 are taken into account. The hierarchies were entrenched in power in much of the United States, not only in the South, and could easily imagine a policy of suppression carried on by their police forces. The equalitarians, EQUALITARIANS, the equalitarians, on the other hand, had little real power anywhere in the United States except a partial veto and an indefinite appeal to the consciences of some of those who did hold power. It might have been hard for them to imagine, and certainly would have been absurd of them to urge that the local and federal police power be used to uphold a new order of racial equality. As for the accommodationists, many of them were more cautious believers in an ultimate racial equality, and many were working within the context of extremely hierarchical societies in the South. For them, the enforcement of even moderate racial change by overwhelming police action would have seemed impossible. And instead, they urged the semi-official discussion and adjustment of particular issues. And this was 1919. Could this have been when, Kentucky, the state, not just one city, but the state of Kentucky urged the Kentuckians, the white mobs in Kentucky, all over the state, to stop brutalizing and dragging black men? I don't know. I'm just saying, Is that how they had to adjust to these particular issues of racial violence against my people? Yeah, we're going to read this again and stuff because I got a lot of views on it, on both of these books. But both groups, therefore, emphasize the need for major changes in the values held by Americans before their values should be translated into enforceable law. And we still reading about 1919? Is this before they did all that shit or after? It just say 1919. But then, the massacres in 1919, I read one that was as early as February. But then, like Tulsa and them, I think they happened in like June. The massacres in 1919. It wasn't just like June and July. The summer of 1919 must have been the catalyst, the peak of the year. I don't know. I'm just trying to get the chronological order. Yeah. But let's read anyway. These three different approaches to the role of police: the call for a more powerful police to uphold order, the call for a more neutral police that might permit disorder without violence, and the call for a change in values before the police were asked to enforce any standard, can be developed for analytical purposes into three different basic ways of exercising political authority over a society within which there was intense political conflict carried on by powerful groups over basic issues strongly felt. These three forms of political authority might, for the sake of convenience, be called those of church, of state, and of government. A church is an institution that focuses and creates shared values by moral suasion. Moral suasion. And it say persuasion, it said moral suasion. SUASION. Rather than force or coercion. Although we are used to thinking of churches as separate from the government, There are many elements of presidential and congressional authority that are symbolic rather than coercive, and many aspects of court decisions on great issues that go beyond immediate, coercively enforceable degrees into the creation of a new consensus on basic values. In this sense, some writers have spoken of the religions of democracy or of nationalism, and it is the institutionalization of such religions within some parts of the federal authority that is meant here by the word church, rather than any particular religious body. In a society that had a single major church, there would be no serious political conflicts. Almost all the people would agree on political values and purposes. In a society where several churches or none existed, there might be intense political conflict. It would be hard to establish a single church or to keep an existing one legitimate. The argument for a new church on racial issues was expressed in 1919 by those who hope for racial equality or accommodation to be achieved by a change in American values. A state, to use and deliberately misuse Max Weber's definition, is an institution that has a monopoly on legitimate violence and the power to prevent or punish illegitimate violence. Weber did not mean by defining a state in this way to suggest that a state did not have other powers as well. But let us, for the sake of convenience in discussing different sorts of political authority, turn Weber's definition around and call a state that sort of institution which can only forbid private illegitimate violence and which can use its own legitimate violence only to enforce that prohibition. In a society where there were intense political conflicts, but a state existed, the conflicts would be likely to be fought out with no outright violence by disorderly methods. In a society beset by conflicts in which there was no state, the conflicts would be extremely likely to erupt into violence. In 1919, those who called for a neutral police system and the prohibition of violence on racial issues were demanding what we are now calling a state. A government, finally, is an institution that intermixes the function of church and state. A true government both sets forth values and prepares to enforce them without a legitimate violence necessary. In doing so, a government creates something totally new, law, in the strict sense, which first sets forth the acts people should perform or avoid, and then prescribes the use of police power to punish those who fail to obey. Let me read that again. In doing so, a government creates something totally new, law in the strict sense, which first sets forth the acts people should perform or avoid, and then prescribes the use of police power to punish those who fail to obey. In a society where a strong government operated and true law existed on all issues, political processes would be extremely orderly, and change might be slow and hard to bring about from the bottom, but easy to command from on high. Those who in 1919 wanted forceful police measures taken to restore law and order or to uphold racial hierarchy were calling for the creation of a government on the race question. These ideal types of political authority are, of course, convenient ways to categorize political behavior rather than descriptions of actual political institutions operating in the pure forms as set forth here. But a particular political institution may act much more like one than another of these idea types, or on a particular issue over which there is intense conflict, a given political institution may act like one of these forms, whereas on another issue over which there is little conflict, the same political institution may act much more like another of the ideal types. This last, on the racial issue, has been precisely the case with the United States government in Washington. On many questions, for many decades, it has acted like a true government. On the race question, it has not. Indeed, in 1919, the United States had no single church, no state, and no single government as regards the race question, though it did, on the local level, have an ill-defined and in-show set of governments. That's INCHOATE. An in-show set of governments, mostly committed to racial hierarchy. In response to the 1919 race riots, there began to grow the seeds of an American state on the race question, an institution or set of institutions that allowed violence from either side, but did not try to settle the basic conflicts that led to the violence. The way in which the United States Army behaved in most of the riot situations it entered, and the way in which the Supreme Court acted when the Arkansas cases reached it, are the indications that the seeds had begun to grow. But they were only seeds, and not until the racial crisis of the 1960s did the notion of an American state on the race question begin to flower. And then it goes to the 60s. All three forms of politics are used by the civil rights movement. As used by the civil rights movement, were concerned with bringing about change. Let me read that again. All these forms of politics, as used by the civil rights movement, were concerned with bringing about change. But there was a difference in the extent to which people using the different forms tended to focus on the changes to be achieved, to the exclusion of focusing on the rules of the system that was to be changed and on those who defended that system. In the politics of order, people divide their attention between the changes to be accomplished and the accepted rules of society about the legitimate ways of bringing about change. In the politics of violence, people divide their attention between the changes to be accomplished and those powerful people who get in the way of change, the enemy. In the politics of disorder, people tend to reduce greatly their interest in both the given rules and the enemy. Instead, they focus very strongly on the changes to be accomplished. To oversimplify a bit, in the politics of order, men follow the rules. In the politics of violence, they attack their enemies. In the politics of disorder, they pursue change. It can be argued that the civil rights movement of the 1960s actually accomplished more change in race relations than did either the politics of violence in 1919, 1943, and since, or the politics of order in 1866 and 1875, the years of the first Civil War acts, and 1954, the year of the Supreme Court's school desegregation decision. If so, the reason may well be that in focusing on the achievement of change rather than on the rules or the enemy, disorder in the racial struggle has actually brought about more change. To the degree that the politics of disorder is aimed at bringing about change, it is generally invented by people who are outside a particular system of political order and want to bring about change so that they can enter. In doing so, they tend to use new techniques that make sense to themselves out of their own experience, but that look disorderly to people who are thinking and acting inside the system. Kind of like with religion. I'm thinking outside of the circle and you thinking inside the circle. But if you thinking outside the circle, then hey, we thinking alike. I'm just saying, But that's kind of how we seem to act like that. We all do. And I was inside the circle for, I can't believe I thought like that for 43 years. Oh, I just ignored my people, didn't I? And then had the nerve to think it was all right. Y'all, it was okay. We all, imagine if we all just give up on us and think, oh, it's all right. I'm just one person. We won't make it. We won't survive, y'all. We got to make sure our people live on. We got to make sure our genetics live on. Our lineage live on. Yeah. The Negroes were by no means the first to initiate this process. For example, in the 17th and 18th centuries, urban lawyers and merchants who who could not get the entrenched politicians to pay attention to their grievances and who were scarcely represented in parliament, used the illegal and disorderly device of political pamphleteering. Yeah, pamphleteering. Pamphleteering. Pamphleteering against the established order. In the same way, 19th century workers who could not get their employers or the elected legislatures to pay attention to their demands used unionization and the strike, which at first were illegal, to call attention to their grievances. In both these cases, using the politics of disorder not only got the users accepted into the political order and got their immediate grievances looked after, but also got the new techniques accepted into the array of authorized and approved political methods. In short, the system of order was itself changed. Thus, the criminal libel, L-I-B-E-L, of political pamphleteering was enshrined as freedom of the press. That's what freedom of the press was. And the criminal conspiracy of striking was enshrined in the system of free labor unions. One century's disorder became the next century's liberty under ordered law. Whether this will occur with the forms of creative disorder used by Negro Americans in their movement for racial equality has yet to be decided. Well, ain't that some shit? I was like, wow, I was thinking, wow, this is awesome for everybody. And then all of a sudden they say whether it's usable, whether it will be permitted, usable by the Negro in his stance for racial equality will be decided. You see the manipulation. I mean, I was just thinking, how, one century's disorder became the next century's liberty under ordered law. And then the motherfucker said, whether this will occur with the forms of creative disorder used by the Negro Americans in their movement for racial equality has yet to be decided. But there are many indications that the process has begun. And it was a long progress, y'all. The seeming paradox that both racial equalitarians and racial hierarchists could on occasion believe themselves outside their legitimate political power and therefore be forced to use disorderly forms of politics is in reality no paradox at all. During the 1960s, one of these groups, which had long been securely within the political order, the hierarchists and the segregationists, was slowly being pushed outside it. At the same time, the equalitarians and the integrationalists, or at least the bulk of the Negroes among them, who had long been excluded from the political order, was slowly being included for the first time. During the transition period, both groups had reason to feel like outsiders and to use the methods of disorder. Because once they use the methods of disorder, then they could at least get in there and make the change. During this period of sustained disorder from both sides in the racial conflict, the federal government moved further than it had during the brief period of violence in 1919 toward acting like a state. Because both of those groups using the politics of disorder was so powerful, and because opinion in the society at large remains so deeply divided over the values of racial hierarchy as against racial equality, during the early 1960s, there was strong pressure on practically all American political institutions to tolerate disorder when used by either side on the racial question, so long as violence was avoided. To prevent, halt, and punish violence by either side, and to draw back from what would have been a truly governmental act, the police enforcement of either side's view of the race question. Even then, there was difficulty in bringing an American state on the race question to full fruition. Attorney General Kennedy's difficulty in distinguishing a state from a government as when he opposed the original Title III of the Civil Rights Bill for fear that a national police force could not simply prevent violence, but would have to conquer the South, was one measure of the difficulty. But the growing strength of the state position can be seen from the desire of congressmen to enact Title III and from the position taken by the Justice Department in its amicus brief for the Supreme Court on the sit-in cases. And that's amicus, AMICUS. In both of these instances, unlikely organs of government were defending the notion that federal power should be exerted to protect disorder without violence. Obviously, neither the Justice Department nor members of Congress came easily to the position that the protection of disorder was more desirable than the establishment of a new order. Their institutional roles require both of them to fear disorder and to insist on the value of order. But because of the depth and intensity of the conflict over racial equality or hierarchy, both came to believe that an attempt to impose order might result instead in violence, and disorder should therefore be permitted and protected so long as it did not become violence. So in other words, is they saying that as long as white folks is allowed to beat and chase and dismember black folks, it's all right. It's all right as long as black folks don't stand up for themselves and fight back, because see, then it's gonna be violence. Is that what they saying? Because it sure sound to me like we can let it take its course. Let them get it out. We ain't gonna stop white folks. We gonna let them get it out. Because you remember when they tried to stop, like in racial violence in Kentucky, even in this one, in Red Summer, every time they tried to stop white folks from going after the black man after they done accused him of a crime and done got him, in jail and stuff, and white folks, all they had to hear was that a white woman been assaulted, hurt, raped, beat, whatever, killed, and they lost it. And is that what happened? As long as they feel like black folks will sit there and let white folks just massacre them, it was okay. The problem only became when black men started standing up to protect their communities. It sure seemed like what Grimshaw's saying to me. I'm just reading. I can't help but to say what it make me think, though, in my opinion. We all gonna read it together. Yeah, we'll find out what it say, when the time is right. The ancestors will let us know. I feel like reading all of it again, but I'm not. We're gonna go on and read and get through with this. Yep. As for the church aspects of federal authority, it should be argued that the 1954 Supreme Court decision on school segregation was the crucial event in beginning to establish official values based on racial equality. Oh, really? You talking about like Ruby Bridges? When they went and got, I think it was like 5 kids. And Ruby was one of them. She was in kindergarten. And it probably was some other little kids that was probably in like the 3rd grade or the 5th grade. I don't know how the ages were. I just seen Ruby Bridges. But is that what it's talking about? And that right there was supposed to start the racial healing, y'all. That right there was supposed to start the racial reconciliation. When I looked at the movie, I guess that's what it was supposed to be. I'll explain it to you in a minute. Yeah. Although in several instances, direct violations of court orders for school desegregation were confronted by federal enforcement of the orders, the court decision had far more impact in the realm of values and morality. For example, in raising the expectations of young Negroes that finally erupted in the sit-ins than it did in establishing direct enforceable law. And it is important to note that despite its high permanent prestige as an American church, the Supreme Court, from almost the moment of its decision, began to suffer vigorous attacks, which demonstrated the absence of any real national consensus and the resistance to any single national church on the race question. Because, in the movie, Ruby Bridges, she was 6 years old, and white folks was literally threatening that little girl. And what happened was in the movie, it's on YouTube. I bought it on YouTube. What happened was white folks actually came and yanked their kids out of school. I think Ruby spent the first few months in that school by herself with her teacher. And then white folks were just like, fuck it, hell, send their ass to school. But don't you play with that little nigger girl. So, you know, we really made our children suffer through all of that. And it really wasn't even no healing, no sincere healing, no sincere, you know, bonding being made. Them kids just ended up being like, oh, we're going to play together. But my mama said don't play together. But they were still learning them ideas for adult life. See, you can get along when you're in 3rd grade. You're in 4th grade, 5th grade. But once you start growing up, somebody got to remember something. And somebody got to step into place. And it usually be white folks stepping into place in the foot and seeing, perceiving life in us like their parents do. But yeah, to think that, wow, we did that to our babies, made them go through that. But yeah, just like we did with our elders. You know, we started out naming our babies after each other, you know, like John Hartfield. John Hartfield that they lynched in 1919 in June and dismembered him and stuff, you know. And at first, you know, his family, you know, they had to flee. They had to leave him there. And then, you know, they started naming their babies after him and stuff. There was Jonas Hartfield and Jonathan Hartfield and John Roy Hartfield, you know, everybody was a John. You know, and then after like 10 or 15 years, you know, everybody had moved on and lived their life and stuff. Then somebody brought home Karen ass. Somebody brought home Becky, you know. And we just slowly start forgetting. Yeah, we started forgetting. And our ancestors let us forget, and we willingly. They probably tried to tell us, you forgot about John, didn't you? You know. And we did. And when the babies was born and stuff, you know, yeah, our grandparents and stuff, our great-grandparents and stuff, they were like, well, I see John in it. That's enough for me. I see John in it, you know. But it wasn't, we did them wrong. They died and left this earth, left this planet right here with us still blind as fuck. Still ain't learned nothing. And that's how they left this planet and stuff. I don't want to leave like that. I don't give a damn if this whole motherfucker is on fire from the sun itself. I want to know that I stood up for my people. I want to know that I stood up for whoever gonna survive this bullshit right here. I don't know about y'all, but I know about me. I know about me, honey. Yeah. I will not, I refuse to suffer right here on earth because of white folks. Like, I don't even feel it like it's suffering. We exist and we going through some hard times. This right here was suffering. This right here was suffering what our ancestors went through. This ain't nothing. What we going through now, it's gonna be some hard times again. That's why I'm saying, get your little 1-bedroom together. If it get down to it, it ain't nobody but you and that baby. You don't need nothing but a full-size bed. You don't need that whole California king bed, whatever they call them. We got to downgrade. We got to downgrade. We got to start weaning ourselves off of this food and stuff. I got me some bitter honey right back there now. Bought me some bitter honey candy. Yeah. But we got to start weaning all that stuff. We got to. What else we going to do? What else deserves our attention? And then to think about it, what else is more important? What else is important? I don't care what you're looking at. If it ain't telling you and prepping your mind and your pantry, then it ain't no good for you, Black America. I'm just saying. We supposed to be doing these things. And it's different. It's different to me. You know, it's not a part of my everyday life. You know, I was just telling somebody earlier and stuff, I think it was all of y'all, that, you know, my kitchen ain't even, I can't even go in there and cook an omelet. My kitchen don't have nothing in it. Yeah, I guess I'm starting from total scratch, with my juicing in my garden. And I don't want to have no sugar, no meat, hamburger patties and chicken and stuff like that. I don't want meat. I want to have a refrigerator full of garden food. That's what I want to eat off of, garden and stuff. If I do have to have a little meat, I want it to be my own chickens. Yeah, but what I told y'all about today about that plant exploding, that lithium battery plant, and that plant, we get like 70% of our vegetables from that area. Them farmers down there was talking about it too. If I see that video, I'll share it with y'all, but I don't think it was black media. Ooh, prosperity. Yeah. I don't think it was black media. I think I was looking at, white media when I saw that video, and I just started writing down what was going on with it, because I'd be like, trying to eat more vegetables and stuff too. But yeah, let's read. There's so much going on and stuff. I just be trying to, use what I can to make the days coming ahead a little easier. Because we know something gonna happen. Ain't no need in worrying unless we just realize the hell we fucked. Ain't nobody finna read. Ain't nobody finna make no adaptions. Ain't nobody finna change. We're gonna have to downgrade. And if we're not willing to do that, we're not willing to, unlearn everything and relearn so that we can survive this, then it ain't no hope for us. It ain't gonna be no hope for us, I don't know. I wish somebody could stand up right now and put a halt to this 5G network coming out, but I don't know. It ain't gonna happen. Y'all should have already did it. When you seen them putting up them huge 5G towers, you should have said something then. Hey, what is this? But we was in lockdown when they started putting them up. But still, where were the brave people at then? Me too. I tried to say something, but I didn't say it enough or to the right people or something. I don't know. But now look, we all just fucked. So let's just, Black America, let's just make sure we come through it and stuff. Because we know the cosmos didn't manifest us for nothing. They manifested us so we could survive whatever's coming. But we were supposed to choose a different decision when we got out of that enslavement. We weren't supposed to stay around white folks and stay under white folks. And then when we finally did build up our 1919, after them massacres, we weren't supposed to go back to white America. We were supposed to try again on our own. Now, we're in extreme times, unprecedented times that I see. And we got to take some extreme measures. I mean, yeah. Okay. It was not really until the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was passed that the aspect of the state on racial issues that the federal government had begun to take on in response to the 1919 riots, and the aspects of the church on racial issues that it had begun to take on in 1954 were merged effectively into a new law. Thus, not until 1964 can there be said to have emerged the beginnings of an American government on the race question. Oh, is that when they started the race question? What to do with the Negro? I'm just thinking, is that the race question? It might not be the race question. Let's read. What is likely to happen to that government barely born in 1964, and what may happen to the politics of order, disorder, and violence as they may have been used in the racial conflict, to the extent that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 created a government on the race question. It is only a weak and tentative government. Yeah, I think they talking about the Negro question. I mean, they keep saying the race question. Ain't they talking about the Negro question? And they started this race question in 1964. Well, honey, we looking at this book right now that we've been we done discovered called The American Dilemma, The Negro Problem and Modern Democracy 2. This is the 1944 publication, y'all. It's the largest study on Black America. And it was commissioned during the Roosevelt administration, financed by the Carnegie Foundation, and organized by a Swedish-born author. 101,408 pages of genocide. So this right here is concerning the Negro problem. And this here is the race question. But I could have sworn I seen something about the Negro question. Let's read. We're going to see what the hell. We're going to connect these dots. So you mean to tell me that this race question been around since 1964? What's the question? Well, what is likely to happen to that government barely born in 1964, and what may happen to the politics of order, disorder, and violence as they may have been used in racial conflict? To the extent that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 created a government on the race question, it is only a weak and tentative government. As the Negroes of Mississippi and Harlem, more generally speaking, the Deep South, most rural and most repressive, and the Deep North, most urban and most desperate, made clear as soon as the act was passed, it did not meet their problems. It would take new acts of government to bring Harlem and Mississippi fully into the American political system. And if the past is any indication of the future, such acts of new government are more likely to occur if they have been demanded by those who are still outside the political system through acts of creative disorder. What then is likely to be the future of the politics of disorder within the movement for racial equality? Will the new political forms wither away if equalitarians win more and more victories, or will the techniques outlive the particular issues? Which of the techniques are likely to prove most effective and creative? Is disorder often likely to escalate from the boycott or the sit-in to full-scale social disruption? Or will the hostility to this form of attack prevent its being often used? The answers to these questions will depend mostly upon two factors: the response of political authorities to the use of controlled forms of disorder as ways of attracting public attention to and bringing about a resolution of particular conflicts, and the degree of incentiveness and self-discipline in the Negro community as it tries to create new techniques to cope with whatever failures may occur in the use of controlled disorder. As to the political authorities, if the local police try to smash equivalents of a riot that use no violence, they are much more likely to find real riots blooming before them, or perhaps efforts at general social disruption. Even if the police attack not the organized, deliberate equalitarian movements that are using creative disorder, but instead a number of unorganized, individual, troublesome Negroes, as they more frequently do in the North, they may find the Negro community ready to boil over into riots. If, on the other hand, all the governments concerned, local and national, step back and allow sit-ins, boycotts, and rent strikes to be fought out, just as most labor strikes and lockouts are, they just let them fight it out. So long as neither side uses violence, and if local and national authorities act to punish violence used by either side in the racial conflict, then it is unlikely that efforts at creative disorder would degenerate into rioting. Yeah, degenerate, degenerate. But a movement in this direction would require from the federal government the imagination necessary to build the kind of federal police force that could check and prevent particular acts of violence against Negroes, even violence by local police without taking over entire cities or states. It is not only deliberate police action to smash controlled creative disorder that may result in its degeneration into violence or disruption. If political authorities simply ignore attempts to use controlled disorder, its users may try to may try the more threatening techniques. Limited forms of disorder seem less able to attract attention and disturb the authorities in a great and complex northern metropolis than in a middle-sized southern town or the rural Black Belt. Frustrated Protestants in the northern cities who see their efforts as controlled disorder going from naught, N-O-U-G-H-T. They're going for it all, yeah. Going for naught might well keep on trying such generally disruptive techniques as the World's Fair, stalling, or blocking New York's Triborough Bridge. New York's Triborough Bridge, Tribourough, especially since the greater complexity of metropolitan society is likely to make it more vulnerable to small but carefully chosen acts of social disruption. Or if the failure of control creative disorder disillusions and discourages large numbers of urban Negroes, they may become ready tinder for a spark of riot. On the other hand, forms of limited disorder might become accepted throughout the United States as reasonable methods for persuading legislators and officials to change their minds, akin to free speech, in other words. If this is the direction of change, if the Congress and local governments fully accept sit-ins, marches, boycotts, and writ strikes as legitimate expressions of public desires and change their behavior accordingly, then it is rather unlikely that disorder will escalate into efforts at social disruption or into rioting. As to the degree of incentiveness in the Negro community, the question would be whether there is in existence a leadership that is committed to avoiding violence, that is, capable of creating new forms of disorder without violence, and that can keep in close touch with its constituents in the Negro population. If so, the chances for riot would decrease as compared to the chances of new forms of disorder. So far, Negro leaders in the North seem to have had difficulty in inventing new forms of disorder that would appeal to one specific and extremely important group: adolescent youth and young men without jobs or education. The Southern sit-ins and marches have evidently appealed to some of the same qualities of masculinity and physical courage that make many young good good soldiers. But the Northern rent strike and economic boycott seem to appeal to or be activities more easily carried out by quieter, older people. Although school boycotts and job blockades may appeal to the young, they cannot easily involve those who have already quit school or those who do not have the skills necessary to hold existing jobs. And it is exactly these men who are most likely to resort to violence. In the absence of new inventions and creative disorder that appeal to young men in the North, therefore, riots may become more likely. The two sets of changes that from the discussion above seem to be necessary if violence and social disruption are to be avoided can be summed up as: first, the bringing to fruition of an American state on race questions, and second, the invention and legitimation, Legitimation, the invention and legitimation of a number of new techniques of control creative disorder. The first of these means that some form of federal police force must be created to prevent violence from being used by either side in the racial conflict, including violence that takes on the color of legitimacy because it is carried on by local police who are in fact merely acting on behalf of one side or the other, usually white folks. Such a force would have to be carefully aimed at the protection of creative disorder used by either side in the racial conflict, and would have to be carefully restricted from itself defending one view or the other of racial justice. Indeed, it would probably be wise to set up a separate force for this purpose. so as to avoid involving those enforcement officers who carry out governmental mandates to the degree that they exist on the racial issue. For example, the public accommodation provisions of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Conceivably, such a force might be most effective if there were also created a system for managing and coping with particular disorderly techniques used in racial conflict, just as the Wagner Labor Relations Act created ways of recognizing certain agents of labor and management as legitimate conflict organizations, approving some forms of labor management disorder, ruling others out of bounds, and encouraging bargaining between the parties. If American society were to achieve new levels of consensus on new aspects of the race question through the clash of ideas and power involved in creative disorder, then new enforceable law would presumably be created, and the responsibilities for dealing with the areas covered by the new laws would shift from agencies behaving like a state to agencies behaving like a government. The second of what seemed to be the crucial prerequisites, prerequisites. The second of what seemed to be the crucial prerequisites to avoid racial violence, the invention and legitimation of new forms of control, creative disorder that would be applicable to new areas of racial conflict, may have some implications and effects that go beyond the racial arena, as in the extension of the legitimacy of the free press beyond the issues and social groups for which it was first espoused to new issues and other social groups. So it is possible that some forms of creative disorder invented by Negroes in the movement for racial equality will become legitimate for other social groups as well. Oh, you mean how other groups take what we have invented and created and formed for us and then used it for themselves? Like that. That's what I think. But when we all talk about it, then we'll see. When we all read this together. Because, yeah, we all going to have some different views on all of this. I already know it. Wow. And then made it will become legitimate for other social groups as well. For example, it is not impossible to imagine some of the white miners of Eastern Kentucky, many of whom have been without jobs for many years, sitting in on federal unemployment compensation offices. It is not impossible to imagine school boycotts by students protesting the firing of a professor or protesting against their schools being put on a split shift schedule. In other words, if the new forms of disorder become legitimate, there is no reason to expect that only Negroes will find them useful and necessary. And that's true too. And then, the strange thing, the fucked up thing about that is, even though it's made useful for everybody, it's mostly just restricted or denied to the black person who it was created for initially. Like this white man right here that we was talking about, who's been unemployed for years, would apply and get it. But the black man who it was made for and who was possibly just fired for nothing, will have to jump through hoops to get it. That's what I feel, But, what is this a new? Are we done? Oh, my ancestors. Ooh, y'all look at that. Should we go on? Yeah, let's do it. Strangers next door. Ooh. Ethnic relations in American communities. It make me wonder how they get from next door to in the house. But let's read. Let's just read. Strangers next door. Ethnic relations in American communities. The case of religious affiliations in a multi-group society. They use religion. Many general points find concrete illustrations in the instance of interfaith relations in the United States. Most of our attention in the present volume has been directed to racial relations, but the basic concepts and the underlying model of a social system are adaptable to other types of intergroup relations. Let us illustrate the approach by examining briefly some of the main social features of interreligious relations in the United States. A long-standing, if imprecise, hypothesis concerning social conflict has been that a society riven, R-I-V-E-N, that's what it say. Yep, a long-standing, if precise, hypothesis concerning social conflict has been a has been a society riven by many cleavages, is in less danger of violent disruption than one in which a single massive division runs across the population. Oh, well, which one would we be? It's a long-standing hypothesis concerning social conflict has been that a society riven by many cleavages is in less danger of violent disruption than one in which a single massive division runs across the population. Well, we would be the society riven by many cleavages if they talking about all these cuts and arrows stabbed into Black America. But the one in which a single massive division runs across the population, I know they ain't talking about white folks coming to the, let's read. William, if you want to look that up, it's in Williams, 1947, page 59. Investigation of this notion takes on sharpened social relevance in view of our present understanding of the inevitability, inevitability of some cleavages between groups exist in society as the simple obverse of consensus within groups. OBVERSE, obverse of consensus within groups. This means that the question for analysis is not why there is cleavage, but what are the lines of potential cleavage in society? And what are the consequences of one configuration rather than another one? Yeah, so in other words, don't you ask why Black America going through what they going through. You ask what can Black America do to fix themselves? But don't you ask why. That's how I'm looking at it. So you can't ask why about anything, but you can ask how you can fix it, how you can make this situation better, and just leave the root of the problem. I'm putting this in, for what I'm here for, healing Black America. And if you want to look that up, that's Coleman, 1956, page 53. Among the categorical bases for group formation in the United States are race, religious affiliation, language, religion, socioeconomic stratum, ethnic origin, political affiliation. Let us imagine that these attributes are invariably associated in such a way that only the following three clusters occur, with approximately the same number of persons in each one. What would be the outcomes of this situation? We may be sure that a society made up in this way would not be anything like the United States we know now. Nor would any of the major factors listed have its present significance. And I'm going to just show you the graph they got there, if you can see it. Yeah, there it is right there. And it's got, it's a little graph with the category, and then it's got the clusters. And overlapping of religious membership with other social characteristics. Because it's got, the British, the upper class, white, Protestant, Negro, Catholic, Chinese, Buddha. Oh, I might as well. It's got the category. Race, white, Negro, Chinese, but the religion is Protestant, Catholic, and Buddhist. The language is English speaking for white, Spanish speaking for Negro, and bilingual, which is Chinese English for the Chinese. And then at the bottom, it's got it's got region, class, ethnic origin, and political party. So for white, that would be New England, upper class, British, and Republican. For the Negro, that would be South, middle class, Gold Coast, and Democrat. And for the Chinese, that would be West, lower class, China, and socialist. For the political party. Yeah. Overlapping of religious memberships with other social characteristics. Notice that in this hypothetical society, there is no overlapping of the several crucial social attributes. Everybody is different. There's no overlapping. Everybody's different. This characteristics makes for maximum likelihood of divergent interests and for maximum clarity of group membership. If groupings of this kind are in contact and if they are competitive, the likelihood is great that some form of conflict will emerge. Thus, we may arrive at this hypothesis. Group conflicts are at their strongest, are most likely to develop and least easily dissipated when no conflict is felt within the person. And that's IBID 46. Another way of stating the point is to say that a major factor in reducing conflict between groupings is in the maximizing of cross pressures where individuals through multiple overlapping group memberships within individuals through multiple overlapping group memberships. We may say therefore, and who did they overlap? Black folks. We may say therefore that number one, maximum potentiality of large-scale group conflict is present when the major structural categories of social differentiation, differentiation, differentiation coincide to form a small number of massive social categories whose members nonetheless are competitively interdependent in economic and political subsystems. Number two, major structural categories of great importance in any society are A, territorial community, B, social class, C, ethnic groupings, D, race, E, religion, and F, political affiliation. Whoa. 3, a society faces maximum likelihood of massive conflict when the various lines of differentiation of values, interests, and collectivity memberships coincide among the same population aggregates. In contemporary United States, the various major bases for collectivity memberships crisscross in a most complicated fashion. Very different are the consequences to be expected from a cumulative coincidence of all these lines of differentiation. If the points thus far made are valid, it is a reasonable supposition that differences in religion would be least disruptive in a multi-group society where they are not systematically associated with other important bases of divergence in values and interests. And in parentheses, a conspicuous example of a modern religious sect that is radically alienated from the environment in societies is that of Jehovah's Witness. Remember, I asked ChatGPT something about the religions, and it gave me all the religions but Jehovah's Witness. Now, see, Jehovah's Witness doesn't celebrate any holidays, so they're not giving in money. You know, it was something that in one of the other videos I had mentioned it, and it was something about Jehovah's Witness. I'm gonna ask my best friend what was, because I looked it up when me and her was on the phone, because she's a Jehovah's Witness, one of my best friends. Her family is a Jehovah's Witness. And I looked it up, and then when I asked ChatGPT, well, why isn't Jehovah's Witness included in there? And they were like, oh, because it is considered a subgroup of Christianity. I said, oh, it's because, Jehovah's Witness don't celebrate no holiday. They ain't bringing in no thousands and thousands of dollars, on Mother's Day or $1 billion on Christmas Day, because they don't really celebrate holidays and stuff like that. But ain't that something? And then here it is right here in the book. Yeah. A conspicuous example of a modern religious sect that is radically alienated from the environing, environing society is that of Jehovah's Witness. Like other alienated proletarian movements, it emphasizes a cataclysmic end of the world with a millennium following, and a system of esoteric, ESOTERIC, a system of ascetic knowledge, and a doctrine of sharp rejection of the world, and a vision of future utopia. C.F. Kahn, who is that? C.F. C.F. Kahn, 1955. An Underwood study of an overwhelmingly Catholic city in northeastern United States, 1957, it was observed that religious cleavage had been accentuated by the correlation of class and ethnic lines, which religious affiliations, partly because this very association tended to reinforce stereotype preconceptions and antipathies. Protestants were primarily of Yankee background and middle and upper middle class position. Catholics derived more largely from later immigration and tended on the whole to occupy the lower socioeconomic strata. The hypothesis just discussed can be put into testable forms. Establishment of the conditions under which they are valid would presumably be of great permanent interest. A more positive source of social solidarity arises from the multiplicity of interests and values in the overlapping memberships that bind men together in a pluralistic society. Each man can have the security of diversified economic, political, and other socio-emotional investments. He has not committed all his eggs to one basket. Conflicts of economic interest, of status aspirations, or even of religious views do not, therefore, have the desperate urgency that comes from staking everything on a single commitment. And that's C.F. Wood, 1960, page 194. This hypothesis is somewhat imprecise, and it will not hold without qualification under any and all circumstances. But the truth it contains becomes evident when we see the consequences of a threat to a single group membership, upon which depends all the major values of a man's life. Whether membership in question can be that of clan, tribe, church, or nation, any severe threat to an all-inclusive bond of membership must necessarily arouse great fear. The most powerful and elemental reaction to great fear are two, namely flight or attack. And if flight is impossible, fear can lead to the deepest rage and the most complete and merciless conflicts. These are underlying elements in the ferocity of blood feuds, religious wars, and totalitarian civil wars. Why? I ain't gonna say that. Conditions leading to conflict or accommodation among religious groupings. In our relations of members of one religious body to those of another, there is the possibility of active disagreement concerning genuine questions of ultimate values. And that's Williams, 1956, pages 12 through 20, if you want to look it up. What we are increasingly discovering, however, is the great extent to which strictly religious differences need not interfere with peaceful coexistence if certain other conditions are present. Again, for illustration only, we cite a few additional hypotheses. The likelihood of overt conflict between any two religious collectivities within a given social system would appear to be reduced by any one of the following conditions or by any combination of them. Number one, low intensity or salience of belief in the exclusive validity of a highly specific, institutionalized belief system on the part of a high proportion of the members of both the religious groupings in question. They sure went through a lot of excusing instead of just saying white folks fucked up, they need therapy, they need help, they insane. I mean, they still haven't come to that point of, condemning white America. And this is supposed to be the last book after all the other states, assuming that this is the last book that we were supposed to read. But maybe when we get to the end, yeah. Number 2, frequent personal association of members of the religious collectivities in secular activities involving shared goals and cooperative action. Number 3, presence of an outside collectivity perceived as competing with or actively threatening the power position and other interests and values of both of the religious collectivities. Number 4, multiple overlapping memberships on the part of a large proportion of members of both religious groupings and other collectivities. Number 5, a stable balance of power, which may be either a traditionalized situation of accommodation to marked inequality or a situation of such perceived equality that neither party sees any possibility of dominance save at prohibited cost. This limited examination suggests that further systemic and objective study of interreligious relations would be likely to produce results of great theoretical as well as practical importance. Well, we'll see. On integration, a human community or society exists as a complex structure of relationships. The main basis upon which a community or a society can function as a going concern are not too difficult to identify in a general way, no matter how hard it is to specify concretely how they work. The primary classes of factors in the coordination of behavior within social aggregates as systems are 1, mutual advantage, that's A and B. A is internal protection, exchange, and facilitation. B is external defense and aggression. 2 is consensus. A, B, C, and D. A is on values, B is on goals, C is on norms, and D is on interpersonal liking and disliking. 3 is power. 4 is technical capacities for communication. 5 is various social mechanisms for settling conflicts, restricting conflict, and producing consensus. Ooh, yeah, I did say we're going to go there. Oh, yeah, we're going to do, it's only like 5 pages. A multi-group society can continue to operate as a system with a low degree of consensus in some respects if it is a society with high mutual advantage, effective means of communication, and some minimal unitary exercise of order maintaining power. It will be driven more and more toward reliance upon power, the less consensus there is concerning the distribution of rewards and concerning the basic rules for settling conflicts. Now, ethnic relations represent problems of consensus and dissensus. To the extent that prejudice and discrimination are sources of tension, discord, and open conflict. To that extent, there is a dissensus that raises the question of relative power to control the settlement of demands and claims. Conflicting claims in the absence of agreement on specific norms must be the exercise of power. Unless there is somewhere a stopping point at which legitimacy comes in, there is, where a source of power is invoked that presents a focus on value consensus, one can predict that there will be increasing disorder and the resort to increasingly drastic means. Once a specific conflict has been precipitated, many forces may be evoked that were not a part of the original sources of the outbreak. Conflict is a vortex. Into it are drawn diverse elements not intrinsic to the initial causes of the conflict. The quality of this process is well suggested by Semmel's comment on the American Civil War. And well, we're going to read that part right there because it did mention it. The moment, however, the situation took on the color of war, it itself turned out to be an accumulation of antagonisms, of attitudes of hatred, newspaper polemics, polemics, frictions between private persons, frictions at the borders, and reciprocal moral suspicions in areas outside the central point of conflict. And that was Simmel, 1955, pages 109 to 110, Simmel. The precipitating situation is permeated with a variety of latent conflicts of interest, of difference of values, of suppressed antipathies, and interpersonal alienation. Once the situation becomes one of open conflict, three things of decisive importance immediately occur. One, the suppressive and repressive forces that have partially controlled tensions are removed or weakened. Two, latent threats become actual and new threats emerge. Both polarized along the cleavage of the conflicting groups. And three, the axis of social approval and disapproval shifts, so the acts which formerly were antisocial now become virtuous, thus placing the superego energies in direct alignment with the wide range of hostile and aggressive urges. If a community or a society wishes to control conflict, the time to do it is before the conflict starts, or at least before it begins to take on a breakaway momentum. In modern American society, the relative lack of inter-ethnic relations of social controls that derive either from personal reciprocities, reciprocate, like reciprocities. Yeah, reciprocities. I don't know. I can't say that word. Reciprocities. Yeah. All right. Okay. In modern American society, the relative lack in internet relations of social controls that derive either from personal reciprocities. I forgot. I said it, but then I forgot. I'm going to keep working on it, though. Or from mutual dependence on the same concrete leaders, authorities, patrons, etc., removes an important network of containing and mediating relationships. A phenomenon of race riots, juvenile gang warfare, vigilante activity, and diffuse terrorism illustrate the problem. The most certain way to maximize conflict is to give one's opponent only the choice of conflict versus certain defeat, deprivation, or subordination. The most certain way to maximize violence is to lead to the opponent violence as the only alternative to his own destruction, or to the same effect, the destruction of his most cherished objects of value. Furthermore, the greater the number of relationships affected by any change in the relationships of two or more individuals or two or more social roles, and the more important the values affected, the greater the likelihood that there will be intervention by some kind of third party. Considering the importance of ethnic relationships in a society like ours, it would be surprising were law and political authority generally not invoked to deal with conflicts of claims and breaches of order. Settlement of conflicts inevitably creates norms, and the creation and enforcement of legal norms is a decisive mode of securing consensus in complex socio-cultural systems. Wow. Change through legal means under American conditions is typically a gradual and uneven process. Far from being revolutionary, it is the essence of established procedure and orderly development. Nevertheless, we will regard legal action through the courts and administrative action in business, education, government, and religious organizations as major avenues of realistic efforts to alter systems of discrimination and prejudice. These avenues are congruent with the dominant value systems and with the character of the complex social structure that has developed. And law enforcement are great agencies of public education. The slowness of change put up against the moral claims of minorities for equality of rights necessarily maintains high tension. Furthermore, it cannot be assumed that any or all types of industrialization, and urbanization will lead to a decrease in discrimination or to a narrowing of occupational and income differentials between whites and Negroes. For instance, under conditions of plentiful labor and weak unions, differential job and wage opportunities may be maintained even with large industrial growth. Blaylock, BLALOCK, has presented data for southern counties that suggest that Negro-white differentials and levels of living probably are not less in the highly urban areas than in the less urbanized, even though levels of both Negroes and whites are higher in the more urbanized counties. Blaylock, 1959, page 146 to 151. Then it said, in northern and western cities, segregation and discrimination in housing remain crucial areas of tension, not only in relation to Negroes, but also in relation to Puerto Ricans, Jews, Mexicans, and others. Social exclusion and discrimination in education and employment affect large numbers of Jewish persons, and in less well-known degree, Catholics in some areas and Protestants in others. Many political and civil rights are widely denied to members of ethnic minorities, especially to Negroes in the South. Thus, the pluralism of American society continues to be a changing and conflictful condition. As a total social system, the political society of the United States has been unable to establish or guarantee political or civil equality of civil equality of protection and opportunity to ethnic minorities. Oh, dang, we ain't even talking about black people no more. We ain't even talking about protecting black people no more. No, don't seem to me like once he brought in, opened that door for everybody else. Yeah, this ain't just about black folks no more. And he just mentioned it in the chapter before then, how everything that was initially made and invented and created and passed for the protection of black folks, once it was used for other folks and stuff, that was it. That's where it remains. You know, it just seemed to me like that's what's happening and stuff. I know I'm tired. I'm sleeping. I know y'all tired too. And we ain't got but what? 3 more pages. I'm going to go fast. I ain't even going to talk much. Because I see what Grimshaw was doing. Okay? But let's read. Yet it is equally unable to renounce the universalistic norms and democratic goals. It cannot settle for a caste system, nor for a mosaic society of separate cultural segments. Its nominal ideal is an emancipated order of low prejudice and minimal segregation and discrimination. Resistances to change in the direction of public equality and public integration often touch off overt conflict. Looking simultaneously at prejudice and at segregation, there are these possibilities. Prejudice, well, it's got segregation, slight and great. And the prejudice, your low is emancipated for slight and mosaic pluralism for great. And for the highs, it's mass conflict for slight and stressful case-like for great. Great pressures exist to move the society towards social integration of ethnic minorities and emancipated outcome. Great resistances are therefore aroused. One key to the understanding of resistance on the part of dominant ethnic groupings is the recognition that resistance derives from a sense of threat. One key to understanding a sense of threat is to be found in answers to the questions. What is threatened and how? We already have suggested some partial and tentative answers. We will propose as especially important the following hypothetical propositions. Who? The extent and intensity of resistance to increase rights or privileges of any ethnic racial, and religious segment of the society will increase directly with the degree to which the present or prospective change is perceived by persons in other ethnic categories as a direct threat to their own long-term future prestige ranking, as determined by the evaluations of other persons who are in a position to importantly affect that ranking. In short, resistance will increase directly with perceived threat to prestige status. Prestige. Number two, more specifically, resistance will vary directly with the perceived threat from the reactions of others within the dominant ethnic segment who have economic or political power, religious authority, or other indirect sanctioning power. For example, the ability to community evaluations. That is, anticipated sanctions from persons of power and authority are especially threatening. Number three, whatever the perceived threat to status, it will be the more powerful. The less possibility there is for alternative ways of maintaining status. Once the prospective change has occurred, feeling trapped tends to produce panic. Yeah, no shit. Although prestige status is the subject of these three propositions, they are expected to apply to any other threatened values. Well, when did they ever see us as prestige? I'm just saying. If we talking about all these other groups of people now, the prestige. When they ever see us as prestige? He ain't even gave us our rightful, wording in this book yet of empathy. And not, that he's supposed to be emotional or nothing like that, but it ain't even got to be empathy. I mean, I'm just holding them accountable. And he haven't even addressed any of that, But we're going to go on and read it anyway. We have suggested. Did I read them? The less concrete. Okay. And I said who? What factors encourage sense of threat in the first instance? Oh, let me back up a little bit. Although prestige status is the subject of these three propositions, they are expected to apply to any other threatened values. What factors encourage sense of threat in the first instance? We suggest, by way of examples, that under present conditions in the United States, the sense of threat among persons in a dominant ethnic category facing potential change will be the greater. One, the less the concrete knowledge of the beliefs, values, and motivations of the aspirant or rising subordinates. Two, the less knowledge there is of effects of the potential change in actual experience elsewhere. Number three, the greater the actual likelihood that the potential change would damage the dominant group's interests. We have suggested that political authority is one of the primary, necessary, and important factors in determining the balance of ethnic relations in our society. From any point of view, the political elements in the widest sense must be prominent in any appraisal or societal conflict and integration. As American Negroes become able to secure equal rights, including the vote, the possibility of protecting other rights will increase. The diversiveness of prejudices and the discontinuities of experience and communication that are generated by group segregation and discrimination are extensively documented by data presented at various points throughout this book. Inevitably, reflection upon the facts of ethnic separateness has raised the basic question. In the face of group divisiveness, how are pluralistic social systems maintained? To answer this question is one of the most important tasks of the entire body of the social sciences. Not an assignment to be handily completed in a single work on intergroup relations. Nevertheless, we must perforce make a few additional observations dealing with the issue. At the risk of inappropriate simplification, let us list certain other major factors as we have sensed them in the communities here studied at first hand. Yeah, this is it right here. See y'all? Oh no. I was gonna say, don't tell me I had some more pages. See? I was gonna say, don't tell me I had some more pages to read. But yeah, we getting there though. First, as we see hometown or Southport Valley City or Steelville at the point in time in which our surveys were conducted. The communities as units are crucially dependent upon the larger society in which they are embedded. However vaguely this interdependence may be sensed by the man in the street. No, wait a minute. That's in parentheses. However vaguely this interdependence may be sensed, actually it is sometimes recognized quite clearly by the man in the street. Every major economic or political event brings it home to at least some of the community's members. Livelihood and safety, survival itself, depend upon the adequate functioning of a division of labor and of systems of communication and order extending far beyond the control or detailed comprehension of local residents. Oh, wow, did he just say we was dumb as fuck and our very existence? Let me read that one more time, then we're going to go on. Livelihood and safety, survival itself, depend upon the adequate functioning of a division of labor and of systems of communication and order extending far beyond the control or detailed comprehension of local residents. Such interdependence need not and often does not lead to sentiments of solidarity. Indeed, recognition of dependence on outside groups often provokes feelings of resentment and frustration. So if he's saying that other groups feel resentment and frustration with helping us and stuff, then why the hell did y'all burn down everything? Why did you destroy everything we try to build up for us? And then other folks feel like, oh, now you're going to need us. Now you're moving here. Now you're this and you're that. You need so much from us, Black America. Yeah, maybe it's just me. Yeah, I know I'm sleepy. Yeah, let's just get through this. Because, yeah, Grimshaw. Such interdependence need not and often does not lead to sentiments of solidarity. It just don't, y'all. It's right there in the book. Indeed, recognition of dependence on outside groups often provokes feelings of resentment and frustration, unless, somebody get more of the goods, the money, the grants, the perks, then it might be worth it to help your ass all the time, because I know I'm going to get a big chunk out of it. I'm just saying, Indeed, recognition of, I already read that. It produces feelings of resentment and frustration, right? But the dependence is there. It is objective in the sense that any real attempt to break the change of linkages with the larger economic and political orders quickly and painfully shows the real and immediate cost of removal from the environing systems of relationships. The impersonal network of trade and power relations exists also within the community. And at this local level also, people may accept their interdependence and the limited associations it necessitates without developing sentiments of solidarity or diffuse reciprocities of concern and obligation. A man can say, I don't like having those damn exes around here, but we need them as workers. A political worker can say, I never invite one of them to my home, but their votes are always welcome. At the local level, in common with the societal, there is, second, the community that is formed by the recognized sharing of common beliefs and values. The communities we studied may seem to have enough of antipathies and to be severely fragmented by differences in values and beliefs. They are indeed socially divided when seen up close under the microscope, but from a more extended perspective, Each of the ethnic, racial, or religious groupings in each of the local communities tended to hold in common with all the other local groupings in a vast store of shared culture. This commonality tends to be taken for granted and to be ignored in much of the intergroup relations of ordinary daily life. In the present studies, we have very little direct evidence concerning its exact part in intergroup solidarity and conflict. We must note the possibility, however, that a wider comparative study would show this shared culture to be of decisive importance in setting the limits of group relations, in defining the terms of conflict as well as those of cooperation, and in channelizing the possibilities of social change. Another study. Thus, the maintenance of a local social system extending across ethnic, racial, religious lines is affected profoundly by the kinds of arrangements that have developed for group insulation through both psychological defenses and the restriction of the qualities of interaction and for the resolution of frictions. The Bible. Well, that's what he's talking about. In the next study, they're going to take a more religious, forgiving form. See, we done got to almost end this book right here. It ain't been no accountability held to white folks. Yeah, Alan D. Grimshaw. Maybe he put out a remix for it. To these arrangements or mechanisms, we have repeatedly called attention in earlier discussions. Fourth, there are sources of resiliency or tolerance of imperfection that result in the absorption by individuals and groups of frustrations, deprivations, and other stresses, including those growing out of intergroup relations. Stresses that would otherwise be more productive of conflict and probably of social change. These sources of adjustive capacities are concretely very diverse, but consist primarily of adequate levels of gratifications secured in the total round of social life, on the one hand, and of socially induced capacities for affection and compassion on the other, which cushion and mediate the harshness of systems of discrimination and segregation. We are here referring to personality resources of the social system, or to speak even more loosely, but perhaps more communicatively, to a surplus of effective capacities permitting toleration of others, even in undesired roles. To say that this happens is not necessarily, of course, to unconditionally approve it. Finally, we believe that the total body of evidence we have reviewed overwhelmingly supports the view that cooperation and solidarity among persons who differ in ethnic memberships is fostered by many arrangements that produce joint action towards shared objectives. From a variety of approaches and theoretical suppositions, one finds suggestions that social solidarity among individuals or groups is enhanced by recognition of the sharing of a positive and non-competitive regard for a common object of concern. That did not sound right to me. Whatever he trying to say, it sound like a huge ass excuse, a slap on the wrist. See, what has happened, and that they don't want to just be blunt about it, is that white America has tortured and tormented Black America to the point that there is no cooperation. What is he talking about? Cooperation and solidarity. There ain't been no cooperation and solidarity. These allies have not one time said, hey, we got to get to the root of what's wrong with y'all. Why you can't go no fuck. Yeah, me and him got a problem. Alan D. Grimshaw. We do appreciate him. That's him right there. We do appreciate him for doing this book right here. But we're going to have to do our own stories from now on. Yeah, I'm tired. I'm sleepy. We'll read this book again, hopefully together. Everybody can read it together. And we'll put our own, we'll discuss it ourselves and see what is he talking about. Because I know somebody in all of this telling of what's happened to us, somebody got to stop excusing white America and acting like white America hasn't done anything. They have totally healed themselves. If they got therapy and help for themselves, why didn't somebody tell us? Why didn't we get therapy and healing? I'm done with Alan D. Grimshaw. Yeah, but I love y'all and I thank y'all for being there. Yep, and look, we even got out 30 minutes early. We usually be here like 3 o'clock. Especially with me missing a few days and then coming back, it's like, wow, shit, you got to start all over again, getting yourself recalibrated, to reading and stuff, because it is a lot, and I do love to read. I love to read and stuff, but I just ain't never read, nothing like this. I mean, Anne Rule, but that's like true crime. It's true, but it's different. This is a system of violence and stuff, and that right there was like, a culmination of many, true crime and stuff. But yeah, we're gonna hear from this. Yep, you right, Gail. Yeah. Oh, good night, Hank, y'all. Let's go rejuvenate. And I'll see y'all tomorrow at lunchtime, 12 o'clock, because that's when we gotta, get our goodness, get our greatness about us. This right here, yeah, we gotta process this. And the ancestors was right. It's best to read this at night, midnight with the ancestors, because it's a lot, And after this right here, lynchings in Duluth, it ain't no perfect time to read this. And this is the best time because we get time to process it. We can work through it. And tomorrow we have a whole beautiful, bright day out there. I won't talk to you no more till 12, but you'll know when you wake up and see that sun, you know what I told you about that sun. It's there for you, for us. So let's use it. Good night, family. Yeah, let's go rejuvenate.